Hi guys, it's Sam from Sammy's Reviews, and in today's video we're gonna be discussing The Devil All the Time, the movie. But before we get into that, I just want to mention that I'm gonna be recommending one horror movie per day and one horror novel per week every Friday on my Instagram stories to celebrate the spooky month of October and Halloween. So if this is something you're interested in, you can check the highlight stories on my Instagram at Sammy's Reviews. And I'm gonna try to choose not so well-known horror movies because I really love horror genre and I delved deep enough into this genre to be able to recommend 30 indie movies for the entire month. Anyway, let's get back to The Devil All the Time. So as I mentioned before, The Devil All the Time is adapted from the 2011 horror novel by the same name. Whether you like the movie or not, I urge you to read the novel. It's excellent. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The Devil All the Time is directed by Antonio Campos and it has a huge cast of Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Sebastian Stan, Bill Skarsgård, Eliza Scanlon, Harry Melling, Mia Wazowski, and Halle Bennett, and Jason Clarke. So as you can see, it's a huge cast and some of the most important people in the present day, such as Robert Pattinson or Tom Holland. Let's quickly mention the synopsis of the movie. So we have a huge cast of characters and different storylines that follows very bad people doing horrible acts because horrible acts have been done to them. And I don't want to elaborate more than that because the story of unfolding the storylines of the characters and the characters themselves is really interesting and I don't want to take that away from you. I'm gonna be discussing the general aspects of the movie with no spoilers. The direction of the movie was so bland and so uninteresting. No impressive shots, no impressive camera movement, nothing that stays with you after you watch the movie. It's kind of just forgettable. The soundtrack was horrible, a bunch of country songs that has nothing to do with the movie and does not suit the tone of the movie at all. Now, the writing is an interesting case because the movie kind of follows the book word for word, almost. But the book was full of monologues and inner thoughts of the characters in order to make this dialogue interesting. And because the movie does not have the inner thoughts and the inner monologues that happen with the character, so the dialogue just felt like it wasn't enough to flush out the character and it kind of just was really misplaced. And for me, the most interesting thing about the movie was the violence because the book was so violent. It was so graphic with its violence. It reached the point that you could not read what's on the paper. But with the movie, the director was kind of just tipping toes with the violence, and there's a lot of violence that happened off camera in the movie, which I honestly don't appreciate because if you want to capture the essence of the novel, you should make it vulgar and violent and so graphic. And you could do that because it's a rated R movie, so why not? And the narration in the movie was actually narrated by the author of the book himself, Donald Roy Pollocks, but it was so badly used. And also, it's a personal thing with me. I hate narration. I feel like narration takes away from the scene and it's kind of like the director is underestimating your ability as a viewer to understand what's happening. Not only that, but it also gives away the idea that the director cannot convey his message using the visual images on the screen, but rather he wants to serve it on a plate for you to understand it and to elaborate more on it. If you're a good director, you can tell me exactly what you want me to feel with no mouth feeding of narration, and that's what I wanted in the movie. Of course, there is always an exception to the rule. There's lots of amazing narration in some movies, but I'm just specifically talking about The Devil All the Time. And the narration in The Devil All the Time was so misused. The narrator was telling you some of the most important things that the characters are feeling right now, and you shouldn't tell me that. You should show me what the characters are feeling. You shouldn't just tell me, so for example, Sandy is feeling blank and blank. I don't want to know what Sandy is feeling. I want you to make me feel what Sandy is feeling. And the director wasn't able to draw or sketch the characters well enough for me to just understand that from the visual images. Some of the overall thoughts I had was that the director was so keen to cram every single character, every single storyline, every single action that happened in the book, which are a lot in the movie, in this 2-hour movie. And in order to do that, he just stripped away the humanity and the essence of the character. It just felt like a bunch of scene put together with no essence, no emotions, And this is actually the best thing about the book. You are following characters that are so messed up and so beyond the line of being good people. But even though this is the case, you understand them and you sympathize with them. Or not just sympathize, you just feel what they're feeling. You know what made them the people that they are now. For example, Carl and Sandy's storyline is one of the most important storylines in the book. It takes up most of the book, and they're some of the most messed up characters you'll ever stumble upon, and they do unspeakable acts. But in the movie, they were just ridiculous. A bunch of people who do things that you cannot understand exactly because he didn't want to go into the violence of what they're doing, and you have no backstory of what made them the way they are, so you just question what sort of a person comes to this point in his life, and you don't know how or why or when did they become the people that they are in the present time. And this is just bad writing. Also, the priest, played by Robert Pattinson, he takes up most of the movie. What is that? In the book, it's only a very, very small and minor part, and I don't want the movie to follow the book word for word. That's not what I'm asking. I'm just asking you, if you're gonna put a character from the very beginning of their movie, then it must have a purpose. But most of the scenes of the priest were very repetitive, and also I really liked the acting of Robert Pattinson. It's for me the best thing about the movie. It was a tad over the top, and this is exactly what you needed from the priest's character. But I just felt that the character didn't have enough things to work with, although he was there most of the movie. While we needed this scene in other characters' exposure, because some other characters, as I mentioned, such as Carl and Sandy, weren't flushed enough. Anyway, I recommend reading the book. It's a 5 out of 5 star, but I gave the movie 2 out of 10 stars, and that's really a bummer because I was really interested in watching the movie. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!